after 70. You would think you've seen through most illusions. You've watched enough sunrises to stop taking them for granted. You've buried people you loved. You've made mistakes that cost you sleep, and you've somehow found a way to keep going. By now, you've earned the right to a certain kind of clarity. And yet, there is one illusion that most people your age are still living under, quietly, every single day. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel dangerous. In fact, it sounds noble. It sounds responsible. It sounds like love. But it may be the very reason you still wake up tired. The reason your chest still carries a weight you can't quite name. The reason something in you feels like it's always waiting for permission to rest. Tonight, we are going to look at this illusion directly. No softening. No polite detour. Because you've lived too long and seen too much to be protected from a truth that could change everything about how you spend the years still ahead of you. The illusion is this: if I am not needed, I am not valuable. That is the sentence many of you have been living inside of for decades. You didn't choose it consciously. You didn't sit down one day and decide to build your entire sense of worth on your usefulness to others. It happened the way most important things happen in a life, gradually, invisibly, through the accumulated weight of 1,000 small confirmations. And now, at 70 or beyond, it has become so woven into who you are that it no longer feels like a belief. It feels like the truth, but it is not the truth. And tonight, gently but firmly, we are going to look at why. Section 1. The illusion of being needed. Think back to when you were young. Someone taught you something, maybe not with words, but with the unmistakable weight of example. They taught you to be useful, to be strong, to show up when it mattered, to be the one others could lean on when everything was falling apart. Be dependable. Be the foundation. Be the person who doesn't need anything so that everyone else can need you freely. And you learned it. You learned it extraordinarily well. You became the one people called. The one who stayed late when staying late was hard. The one who fixed things, smoothed things over, held the silence when others fell apart. You managed, organized, carried, and showed up. And over years and decades, without ever quite making a formal decision about it, you became indispensable. And for a long time, that felt good. It felt like purpose. It felt like belonging. In the deepest part of the feeling, it felt like love. But here is the thing nobody ever told you clearly, and it is worth saying slowly, because it changes the entire picture. Somewhere along the way, you confused being needed with being loved. They are not the same thing. Being needed is transactional. It depends on what you do, what you provide, how useful you remain today, this week, in this particular situation. It can be withdrawn the moment someone finds another solution. It can evaporate when the children grow old enough to manage without you. When the crisis passes, when the role you filled gets quietly restructured by the simple movement of time. Being loved is something else entirely. It lives outside of function. It does not require you to perform. It doesn't keep score of what you've solved or carried or prevented. The Buddha spoke directly to this confusion. He described what he called the clinging to identity, the deep human tendency to attach our sense of self to a role, a title, a function we perform for others. And he was clear. When your sense of worth is built on that kind of shifting foundation, suffering follows naturally. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you built something permanent on something impermanent, and that architecture was always going to crack under the weight of time. Psychology has arrived at the same conclusion through a very different door. Research on aging and self-worth consistently shows that people whose sense of value is deeply tied to being needed, to a professional role, to a caregiving function, to being the person everyone depends on, face significantly higher rates of anxiety and depression when those roles inevitably change. Not because they lost their value, but because they built their value on something that was never designed to hold the entire weight of a human life. Think of a tree. A great old tree standing at the edge of a field, roots threading deep into the earth, bark worn smooth by decades of weather. That tree does not carry the forest. It does not hold the sky in place. It does not manage the rain or direct the wind or organize the lives of the creatures that shelter beneath it. It simply stands. And in that standing, without agenda or intention, it provides. Birds nest in its branches without being invited. Its shade falls on the earth simply because it exists. Its roots hold the nearby soil not out of effort, but out of being. The tree does not earn its place by what it carries. It belongs because it is. So let me ask you something, and I want you to sit with this question rather than rush to answer it. Who would you be right now if you stopped trying to be indispensable, not irresponsible? Not cold or absent or indifferent. Not someone who stops caring about the people they love. Just present. Just real, just here, without the constant background hum of proving that you deserve to take up space. That question might feel impossible. It might stir something uncomfortable in the chest. But beneath the discomfort, if you are willing to stay with it, there is something else. Something that might feel, for the first time in years, like the beginning of a very long exhale. Section 2. The exhaustion no one talks about. There is a kind of tiredness that sleep does not fix. You know exactly what I mean. You wake up after a full night and the heaviness is still there, not quite in your legs, not in any one place you could point to on a body map. It lives somewhere harder to locate, a low, persistent tension that has been running so long you've stopped noticing it. The way you stop hearing the hum of a refrigerator until someone finally unplugs it and the silence arrives like a gift you didn't know you needed. That exhaustion, for many people over 70, is the weight of still wearing roles that no longer fit the life you are actually living. You are still trying to anticipate and solve your adult children's problems before they even ask. Still positioning yourself at the center of family gatherings as the one who keeps the peace and manages the atmosphere. Still monitoring everyone's emotional temperature in the room and quietly adjusting your behavior to manage what you find there. Still being the strong one, the steady one, the one who doesn't burden others with their own interior weather. At 30, that felt like power. At 50, it felt like love and purpose woven together into something solid. But at 70, if you allow yourself to be genuinely honest about it, it often feels heavy in a way that has no clean explanation and no obvious cure. Here is the truth that most conversations about aging are too careful to say plainly. You are not tired because you are old. You are tired because you are still wearing armor from a war that ended a long time ago. Psychologists who study the transitions of later life have documented something striking. The people who report the greatest difficulty in their 70s are not necessarily the ones who lost the most or suffered the most dramatic reversals. They are often the ones who held on the tightest, who kept insisting on their own indispensability long after the world had gently reorganized itself around them, who could not find a way to step back because stepping back felt like stepping into nothing at all. The energy required to maintain that performance, to keep inhabiting a role even after the role itself has dissolved, is enormous. And it doesn't announce itself as a drain, it simply accumulates, quietly and without fanfare, until you notice one day that something essential in you feels constantly empty no matter how much you put in. The armor was built for a reason. In the middle decades of life, being depended upon was both practical and emotionally necessary. It was how you contributed, how you connected, how you located yourself in the landscape of other people's lives. The armor served you well. It protected something real, and you should not dismiss the years you spent inside it. But armor worn past its season becomes its own kind of prison. Ajahn Chah, the great Thai forest monk whose teachings have brought peace to generations of people across the world, once offered one of the most perfectly economical statements of wisdom I have ever encountered. He said this: "Let go a little, and you will have a little peace. Let go a lot, and you will have a lot of peace. Let go completely, and you will have complete peace." He was not talking about giving up on life or the people in it. He was pointing at something more specific and more radical: the attachment we carry to a fixed story of who we must be in order to be safe. The Buddha taught that even the most noble identities can become suffering when we cling to them beyond the time they were meant to serve. Even the identity of the helper, the provider, the one who holds things together when things would otherwise fall apart. Not because those roles are wrong, but because when being needed becomes the only path to feeling worthy, something gets lost. You lose the freedom to help from genuine love rather than from fear. You lose the lightness that makes giving a joy rather than a duty. And what was once a gift quietly becomes a performance of obligation, exhausting to the giver and sometimes quietly suffocating to those who receive it. This week, I want to offer you a small experiment. Just one thing. The next time someone in your life brings you a difficulty they are genuinely capable of handling on their own, resist the pull to step in. Not because you don't care, but to practice something new, being present without immediately moving into function. Watch the discomfort that arises in you. Notice the familiar urge to fix, to offer, to make yourself useful, and then let that moment pass without acting on it. Stay with the discomfort until it moves through, and notice whether, beneath it, there is something that feels, unexpectedly, a little bit like rest. Section 3. The fear beneath the illusion. Now we go one layer deeper, because the belief that your value depends on your usefulness does not exist in isolation. It is anchored to something underneath it, something most people at 70 have never quite said out loud, even in the privacy of their own thoughts. If I am not needed, will I be forgotten? There it is. The actual fear, not uselessness in some abstract philosophical sense, not laziness or selfishness or anything that deserves moral judgment, but the slow, quiet dread of becoming invisible, of watching the world reorganize itself around you as though you were no longer quite present in it, of your children building full and busy lives in which there is no space shaped exactly like you, of your presence becoming something people maintain out of obligation rather than genuine desire. This fear deserves to be named with respect, not dismissed. It is real. It is rooted in something real. The world does, in fact, sometimes do what this fear describes, and anyone who tells you otherwise is offering comfort at the expense of honesty. Research on aging and social identity confirms what lived experience already tells us. One of the most significant sources of distress in later life is not physical decline alone, but what researchers call identity discontinuity, the loss of a role that gave you a recognizable, dignified place in the social world, the loss of the story you could tell about who you were and why your presence mattered. When that story was built around being needed, its gradual dissolution feels not just like change, but like a kind of slow erasure of the self. So the fear is understandable. Of course it is. It would be strange if it were not. But here is what the Buddha noticed, and what contemporary psychology is slowly confirming through its own careful methods. The anxiety you feel when you imagine not being needed is not evidence that you are becoming worthless. It is evidence that you have tied your sense of security to something that was always going to change, and that the tying itself, the knot of identity around usefulness, is what creates the suffering. Think of a clenched fist trying to hold water. The tighter the grip, the faster the water escapes between the fingers. The hand aches from the sustained tension, and in the end, the palm is empty anyway. But a hand held open, relaxed and unguarded, can carry far more for far longer with far less pain. Clinging to relevance creates anxiety. Presence creates connection, and the distinction matters enormously for the quality of the years you have ahead of you. The elders, who age with the deepest and most genuine peace, are not the ones who remained essential the longest. They are the ones who learned how to simply be there, who found, often to their own surprise, that their presence, without any performance attached to it, was itself a kind of love that people came toward, rather than politely maintained, whose children and grandchildren sought them out, not because they provided something useful, but because being near them felt like something the world had otherwise made rare. A person who was not in a hurry, not managing a situation, not subtly trying to move things toward a preferred outcome, just there, warm, genuinely real. I want to ask you something honest, and I want you to receive it in the spirit of care in which it is offered, because it is not a criticism. It is an invitation to see something clearly. When you offer to help, when you step into someone's difficulty uninvited, when you make yourself available before anyone has asked, are you doing it from a place of genuine, freely given love? Or are you doing it, at least in part, because the silence of not being consulted feels like something is being taken away from you? This is not bitterness. This is not an attack on the years you spent giving. This is the kind of clarity that only becomes possible when you love yourself enough to look directly at what is actually true. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote something that has stayed with me for years and that I think is worth sitting with today. He said, "You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. Love that creates freedom. Love that does not grip, does not manage, does not need the other person to remain in a particular configuration in order to feel secure. That kind of love is only available to someone who has released the fear of being unnecessary. And it is the most powerful kind of love there is. It becomes available to you, not in spite of your age, but because of it, the moment you are willing to set down the illusion that your value depends on being required." Section 4. The shift from being needed to being present. Let us draw a distinction that I believe will change not just how you think about the years ahead, but how they actually feel from the inside. Being needed is stressful. Being present is peaceful. From the outside, they look nearly identical. In both cases, you are there. You are involved. You care about what happens. But from the inside, they feel as different as carrying a stone and floating in still water. When you operate from being needed, there is always an invisible expectation running underneath everything you do. Your value exists in the gap between what others lack and what you provide. When you fill that gap, you earn your place. When you cannot, or when the gap closes on its own, the anxiety returns. You are always, at some low continuous level, performing, always monitoring the room for evidence that you are still required, still relevant, still the person things would go worse without. When you operate from presence, that pressure dissolves. You are simply there, awake, warm, unhurried, available not as a function but as a person. And that quality, that genuine, unhurried fullness of being actually completely there, turns out to be one of the rarest things one human being can offer another in a world that is almost entirely somewhere else. The Buddha did not teach withdrawal from life or from the people we love. He did not say family is an illusion to be escaped, or that caring for others leads to suffering, or that love itself is the problem. What he taught was something far more subtle and far more practical. He taught that love becomes suffering not in the loving but in the grasping. When love needs the other person to stay in a particular place, when care is really about our own need to be needed, when the urge to help is tangled up with the fear of what we become if we stop. You can love your children with your whole heart and still let them fail in the ways that will teach them what you cannot. You can care for your family completely and still decline to carry what was never yours to carry. You can be fully, genuinely present with someone without appointing yourself responsible for the outcome of their life. Think of sunlight. Sunlight does not force anything to grow. It does not hover anxiously over a seedling in the garden, adjusting its intensity based on whether the plant looks like it is progressing adequately. It simply shines, evenly and without preference. And what grows in that light grows according to its own nature, its own capacity, its own particular unfolding. The sunlight made it possible, but the life that emerges was never the sunlight's achievement claim. That is the kind of love that becomes fully available to you in this season of your life. Not the managing, directing, problem-solving love of the years when that was what was needed. Something quieter, something more sustaining, love that shines without grasping. Love that trusts the people it loves enough to let them find their own way. This week, try one small thing. Spend time with someone you love without offering a single piece of advice. No solutions. No gentle steering toward the outcome you believe would be best. No subtle redirecting. Just be with them. Listen without preparing your response while they are still speaking. When silence comes, let it arrive without rushing to fill it. Notice what they bring to that silence when you are no longer managing it. Notice what happens in the relationship itself when you give it the room to breathe. You may find that the connection is more alive than you realized once it is no longer organized around your helpfulness. Section 5. What happens when you let the illusion go? There is a specific set of changes that unfolds when people finally release the belief that their value is located in their usefulness. I want to describe them honestly because they are different from what most people expect. Conversations soften. The low-level tension that characterizes many family interactions, the unspoken pressure to be consulted, to be deferred to be acknowledged as the one who holds the relevant experience and authority, that tension slowly dissolves when you stop needing it to be there. What fills its place is something lighter, something more genuine, more spacious. Conversations begin to move in directions they couldn't move before, because they are no longer organized around protecting your place in them. Your adult children, the ones who sometimes grow defensive or distant when you offer advice they didn't ask for, begin to come closer. Not because you have given up caring about them, but because they can feel, in the wordless way people always can feel these things, that you have released the need for them to need you. And freedom, even the quiet, unspoken kind, draws people toward it the way warmth draws people toward a fire. Relationships equalize. This is the change that surprises people most. When you stop positioning yourself as the one who carries, fixes, and holds everything together, you discover that the people around you are more capable, more resourceful, and more eager to contribute than you had quite allowed yourself to see. You were carrying so much for so long that they never had the room to show you what they could do. The moment you step back, even partially, something genuine is given space to emerge. And quietly, over time, you become more respected, not less. There is a quality of authority that belongs specifically to the person who does not need to perform their relevance. The elder who listens without agenda, who holds space without filling it with direction and solutions, who is simply and completely there. People are drawn to that quality in a way that is deeper and less negotiable than the respect that comes from being useful. Because it is far rarer, because it cannot be manufactured from effort or demonstrated through performance. When you stop rescuing, people learn to swim. That is not a cold statement. It is a loving one, because swimming on your own, rather than being kept afloat by someone else's anxious assistance, is what actually prepares a person for the open water of their own life. The deepest gift you can give your children now is not another solution. It is the experience of solving something themselves while you hold your breath and trust them. Section 6. Why this illusion is so hard to see. There is a reason this particular illusion persists so stubbornly into the later years of life. A reason it survives long past the point where it is serving anyone well. It was praised. When you stepped in and solved the problem, people thanked you. When you held the family together through the difficult years, people admired you for it. When you sacrificed your own rest to be present for someone who needed you, you were honored, quietly but unmistakably, in the way people honor those they rely on. The language of admiration for the strong, the capable, the dependable surrounded you for decades. The belief that your value lives in your usefulness did not arrive from nowhere. It was confirmed, layer by layer, over an entire life of experience. It was the operating system that ran everything, and for much of your life, it ran well. And so it does not feel like an illusion. It feels like identity. It feels like the most solid and certain thing you have ever possessed. The Buddha described what he called the fetters, the invisible and often unexamined chains that bind us to patterns of suffering. Among the heaviest of these is a rigid self-view, the fixed story we carry about who we are, what we must be, what we owe the world in exchange for existing. When that story is built around usefulness, it becomes threatened by every change that reduces the opportunities to perform it. Psychology offers the same understanding in its own careful language. Studies on older adults consistently show that those with the most rigid, role-based sense of identity, those who most strongly equated their value with their function, face the steepest psychological difficulty during the transitions of later life. Not because their lives went wrong in any dramatic sense, but because they had no story about themselves that could survive the natural changes of the season. The season changes whether we consent to it or not. In summer, the tree works. It extends its branches, pushes new growth toward the available light, spreads its canopy wide to catch every hour of warmth it can reach. There is a season for striving, for building, for carrying the weight of others. That season had its own necessity and its own particular beauty. You lived it well. But summer tasks do not belong in autumn. The autumn tree does not fail when it slows. It does not diminish itself when the leaves begin to turn and the green effort of growing gives way to something else. It enters a different kind of fullness, a settled, warm, unhurried completeness that spring, for all its energy and promise, has not yet had the chance to earn. You have earned your autumn. The question is only whether you will allow yourself to actually live in it. Section 7. The season you were never given permission to enter. Nobody told you that you could stop. That is one of the unspoken griefs of your generation. You were taught endurance more than rest. You were taught to give before you received, and to give again after that. You were taught, in 100 ways and through 1,000 examples, that your value lived in your usefulness, and the possibility that you might simply be valuable, simply as a human being who has walked through 70 years of this particular and unrepeatable life, and is still here, still breathing, still capable of kindness and curiosity, and the particular depth that comes only from having endured. That possibility was never offered to you with any real seriousness. So let me offer it now, plainly, without softening. You are not what you have carried. Your worth is not located in a record of problems solved or crises managed or needs met before anyone had to ask. It does not live in how often your phone rings, or whether your advice gets followed, or how many things would fall apart if you were suddenly less available. It never lived there, even when it felt most convincingly like it did. Your worth is simply in your being. Buddhism points toward what you might call inherent dignity, the recognition that every conscious being carries, independent of their function or productivity or usefulness, a fundamental and unearnable value. Not something you performed into existence, not something anyone gave you, not something that can be taken. You have it now. You had it at the beginning. You will have it at the end. The only thing standing between you and the peace that comes from knowing this, not just in the mind but in the actual lived texture of your days, is the illusion you've been carrying so long that it has started to feel like the walls of the house you live in. But walls can become doors when you turn the handle. So here is what I want to leave you with. Not a list, not a program. 3 quiet invitations for the days ahead. The first is simply to notice. The next time you feel the pull to insert yourself into someone's difficulty, to fix what no one asked you to fix, to make yourself useful before anyone has indicated they need you, pause before you move. Not to refuse the impulse, but to see it clearly. Ask yourself honestly and without judgment, is this freely given love? Or is this the older, more frightened thing, the need to be needed? Just seeing it changes your relationship to it. You don't have to solve it in the noticing. The noticing itself, the small act of honest observation, is already the beginning of something new. The second invitation is to practice resting without condition. Not rest that comes after you've earned it. Not rest as reward for adequate productivity. Rest as a basic and unconditional right of a person who has lived as long and as fully as you have. Sit in the morning light and let it be enough. Drink your tea slowly and let the warmth of the cup in your hands be its own complete thing. Allow an afternoon to move through you without producing anything anyone else would notice. And stay with the discomfort of that, gently and without self-judgment, until it softens into something that has the texture of actual peace. This takes practice. The discomfort is real. The old training runs deep. But each time you choose rest without first earning it, you quietly dismantle a belief that has cost you more than you yet know. The third invitation is to receive. When your daughter calls just to hear your voice, let that land. When your old friend says you seem well today, let that be real without immediately redirecting to what they need. When someone offers to help you for once, say yes, simply and without turning it immediately into a debt you need to repay or a favor you need to return. Let someone carry something for you. Let it be easy for them to love you. You are allowed to be loved without earning it. You were always allowed to be loved without earning it. You simply forgot, or were never quite given permission to believe it fully. The Buddha observed that the tightest fist holds the least. He was pointing at the paradox that lives at the center of all clinging. The harder you grip, the less you actually have. The more energy you spend maintaining the story of your indispensability, the less of yourself is available for the living of your actual, present, irreplaceable life. Releasing the illusion does not mean abandoning anyone. It does not mean you stop caring or withdraw from the people you love or stop contributing to the world around you. It means you do all of those things from a different and freer place, from fullness rather than fear, from genuine choice rather than the long habit of compulsion, from the kind of love that Thich Nhat Hanh described so simply and so exactly, love that lets the people you love feel free. After 70, something is fully available to you that was not quite available before, not despite the years but entirely because of them. You have seen enough to know what actually matters. You have lost enough to understand that what you were most afraid of losing was often never the point. You have been worn smooth by time in ways that make you more, not less, than you were. There is a particular quality of presence that belongs only to someone who has carried a full life this far. An unhurried attention, a warmth without agenda, a quietness that communicates without any need for words, that you have been places and you have survived them, and that you are no longer afraid of whatever this moment brings. That is not a small thing. That is not a consolation prize for the loss of youth. That is the whole thing. A tree does not carry the forest, but the forest breathes differently because of the tree. You get to decide, beginning now, what kind of presence you want to be in the years that remain, not based on what others need from you, based on what is actually and quietly true about who you are. Once you set down the armor, step out of the role, and simply stand, rooted and unhurried, in the clearing of your own life. So, let this be your reflection as you move into your evening. You are not your usefulness. You were never only your usefulness. You are the one who is still here, still breathing, still carrying the particular depth of warmth and quiet authority and hard-earned perspective that no younger person can manufacture, no matter how hard they try. And that is more than enough. Release, soften, return. Have you felt this quiet pressure to always be needed? Tell me in the comments. What would it feel like, honestly, to finally let that go? Stay with us. Because the wisest chapters of a life are not always written in the loudest seasons. Sometimes they are written in the quiet, and you have earned your quiet. We will see you in the next one.